Recently, Verizon had to use tiny red balls to try to make you think they had a much better network than Sprint. But there's one big thing they left out. The new Sprint LTE Plus network delivers faster download speeds than Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. While Verizon seems to be focused on tiny balls, Sprint has been obsessively focused on building the network of the future. And to celebrate, Sprint is cutting their rates in half. Switch to Sprint and save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile rates. You get the new Sprint LTE Plus network with faster download speeds than Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. And we'll even cover your cost to switch, up to $650 per line. Only from Sprint. Better for less.
Claim based on Sprint's analysis of average LTE download speeds using Nielsen NMP data. Speeds may vary. Offer coverage not available everywhere. Excludes taxes, surcharges, add-on, and premium content. Subject to new line port activation fee and credit. See website for eligible plans. Savings through 1/8/18 after pay full amount. Restrictions apply. Buy every reward card after online registration and phone turn-in.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning and welcome to TimeToPlay.com's Empower Half Hour. My name is Doreen Guma, and I am the founder of Time to Play, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation with the mission and purpose to enrich the lives of others and inspire everyone to enjoy life. And on the line with me today is our financial have money professional, and she's one of the most amazing people, so smart, and I'm so grateful to have her on our team, Dina Isola. She's the founder of Real Smartica, and her goal is to educate people to be financially stable. And good morning, Dina, and thank you for being with me today.
Good morning, Doreen. Thanks so much for having me.
So, the goal that we have for Empower Half Hour, just in case somebody's listening for the first time, the Time to Play philosophy is you have to be happy, healthy, have money, and a work-life balance. And our goal is just to provide little seeds of information, little things that might spark a change, something that you can maybe take one little small thing and put into practice that will help you be happy, healthy, have money, work-life balance. So this is, I guess, the fourth week. I don't know. This is Have Money Week. So that's why Dina is with us this month, and she'll hopefully be with us for next month as well for Have Money Week. So please check out all of the different archived topics. Tuesday is business success, and we do whether you work someplace or you own a business, you need business success. And today is the Time to Play Philosophy podcast on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. We have a internet radio program, kind of a say what you want to say. This week's is transparency. It is geared for more younger people because, let's face it, our younger people this day and age are having a tough time out there. So, judgment-free, not a counseling session, just people talking to work things through and help us each have a better quality of life. But everyone has something to offer that can help someone else. What we got going on for our Empower Half Hour radio programs. So today's is very important. It is still January, and, a lot of things get overwhelming, and especially in January, we're picking up the pieces from the very expensive holidays that we usually wind up with, I think. And so I thought it was really important, and Dina and I were talking that we could kind of come up with some ideas on becoming more financially strong in the year of 2016. So let's get started with our discussion today. So how should we start? What do we need to do? What's our first step? Do we evaluate stuff? What do we need to do to start?
I think that, the new year, a lot of people have the same kind of goals every year, right? I mean, people want to get in better shape usually. They want to lose weight. They want to get stronger. They want to maybe get rid of some of their bad habits. And I wrote a blog. I actually put it on, my husband Tony has a blog, Tony Isola, ISOLA.com. And I wrote a blog last week called, it was about Powerball, because it's kind of, the whole Powerball stuff was kind of getting me irritated, desperately seeking Powerball. And in that blog, I kind of go through a couple of goals I've set for myself, resolutions, if you will, and how that translates to money. So while people are already focusing on kind of shoring up some of their less healthy habits, it could translate into money. So, for example, I say that one of my goals is to get better organized. I always struggle with this, how I can be more efficient and more productive. And it really does translate into money. Like, I'm always shocked by how little people know about their money. They don't know where their money is. They don't know what accounts they have. They maybe left an employer and they left a 401k or a 403b with that employer, but they're no longer there. And now they're with a new employer and they have an account there. And they opened an IRA with this sales professional, and they opened up an IRA with another person. They have a joint account. They're never quite sure what the heck they have, what their insurance policy covers, all these things. So I would suggest a good place to start is to get organized with your money. Find out what accounts you have, what you own, what are in those accounts. And then as you dig a little bit deeper, you should be looking at what fees you're paying, because one of the quickest ways to make money is to pay less for what you're getting. So if you don't realize that, for example, you own mutual funds that have class A, B, C, D after their name, that those cost you more money, just by eliminating them and going for a low-cost, no-load option, right there will put money in your pocket without you even doing anything, without you even putting more money in the account.
That's a very interesting point. I just want to really emphasize, and we do actually have somebody who joined us. If they want to add anything, please don't hesitate. Just kind of chime in. But
right.
We have fees and interest. Usually see what's balance due, or not really knowing our benefits. I know I'm kind of guilty of that as well. Sometimes you just keep going with the same stuff. You don't necessarily take a minute to kind of reevaluate. One of the things that I know that we have to do is actually just kind of put all of our stuff in one place so it makes it more easy. When you leave a job, you might leave some benefits behind, some pensions, some 401ks and stuff like that. So, yeah, you're 100% right on that. That's something
very
important.
When things are scattered all over the place, it really is hard to keep track of them, and hard to get a full picture. And what you're trying to do by getting organized with your money is to really get a full picture of what you have, what's invested in, and then also looking at what debt you're carrying, whether that's a mortgage, student loans, credit cards, whatever it may be. You want to also know what those loans are, what rate you're paying. Even though rates are up slightly off of their lows, they're still at historically low levels. So you may be paying, an exorbitant interest rate on something that, if you could reduce that rate, it would greatly improve your cash flow every month. And with that cash flow, you could then start to put more money aside. I always talk about paying yourself first. That's something that people tend not to do. For whatever reason, they let the cell phone bill or the cable bill or whatever, other bill that's really not absolutely a must, they let that get in the way of paying themselves first, which is just ludicrous to me. Like, you really need to say every month I'm going to at least put X amount in toward me. You should be working toward 15% of your pre-tax income. And I know that sounds a lot, but it really isn't when you factor in that if your employer offers a retirement plan, such as a 401k or a 403b, whatever money you're putting into that counts toward that 15%. And if your employer offers a match, well, hey, you at least get the match because that's free money, and that will also count toward that 15%.
Right. One of the things that's most interesting is the fees that you were talking about, and I'd really like to reemphasize that. And you're saying about the lower interest rates and stuff like that. and also to be able to call a credit card company, which I think people sometimes maybe forget, to be able to renegotiate some of those fees. About a year or two ago, when the interest rates went down tremendously, we did a recalculation, and our interest rates on our house are now at like 4% or 3%, whatever it is. I mean, it's like significantly lower than we had been paying, which causes a huge savings. So we actually refinanced for the same amount of our loan, but made it into a 10-year payment, and we'll be done. You know what I'm saying? So, like, things that we can do to become more financially strong, it might not be that much of a thing, but just one little thought, one little that we can do, and I appreciate what you're offering to anybody listening. It is just a small little idea. So that's great. So what do we got?
People need to look at debt differently, too. Tony, my husband, does a really good job of explaining this to people, and I'm going to try my best to replicate it. But it goes something like this. If you look at what the average historic stock market return is over, say 10-year periods, you're looking like at 7, 8%, maybe 9%, okay? So if you're carrying debt that you cannot negotiate a lower rate on, all right, and you're paying like, 10, 11%, say, maybe higher. If you pay that debt off, okay, if you take a lump of money as soon as you get it and pay all of it or as much of it down as you can, it's as if you've made that, whatever percentage you've been paying for the debt, it's as if you've earned that money because you paid off the debt. So when people say, I don't know if I should pay it off, if it's at a high rate, yes. If you can't negotiate a lower rate, pay it off because it's as if you've made that return back on your money. If it's at a low rate and you can get better being invested, then yes, then carrying the debt isn't the end of the world, provided that the debt isn't exorbitant. And also, it depends upon what kind of debt it is. Like your home, for example, that's good debt. Student loan, that's good debt. I mean, that's debt that has to do with, investing in yourself. But credit card debt, for example, is not good debt. And chances are you're still paying off stuff that you've stopped using, it's broken, or it doesn't fit you any longer. And so that debt, you want to avoid like the plague.
I appreciate that. We recently, I'm going to pay it off now, thankfully, but we had bought a Jeep used, a 2007, and we had a 5-year loan, but our interest rate was like 2%.
Right,
so,
perfect.
We had a car loan, but the interest was like practically nothing. So it was worth it to not, try to figure out how to pay something. I appreciate what you're saying. So that makes a lot of sense to look at that debt. So how is the easiest way for a person to actually put all of that into a picture?
Well, first you have to sit down and take your time gathering the information. I mean, that is where it becomes mission critical, and that's where most people fail to put the work in. People make broad sweeping kind of, hey, I want to have more money, or I want to be in better shape, but there's not concrete goals attached to it. So first of all, and I don't care if you put it in a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, but you really do need to list out what you own, where it is, what you owe, where it is, and at what rate, and how much is left outstanding, so that you could see, okay, this debt is high, or I could pay this off. I have a little bit of money in the bank, and if I pay that off, that debt that's at 9%, it's as if I've made 9% on my money. Okay, great, pay it off. And I'm going to suggest that if you are toward the end of paying something off, and you've been used to paying a monthly, nut of a certain amount of money, I would suggest that you continue to take that amount of money out of your bank or wherever every month and pay yourself. Put it into an IRA or a Roth IRA, or into a joint or individual brokerage account. Because now that you're in that habit of not having that money to spend every month because it's been going somewhere else, earmark it for yourself. And the more things you automate, the more things that you have going directly from your bank into an investment account, the better it is. When people have to stop, sit, write a check, get a stamp, mail it in, something happens between all that, right? Sometimes they just don't execute. So the more things you automate, the better it is.
One of the things that I wanted to just throw out there, and I'm sure you're going to get there at some point during this morning, but I was recently on Facebook, everybody's on Facebook, and there was like this slush fund kind of thing, like what you're saying about having things automatically withdrawn. I mean, years ago, I used to have a holiday account, and they would take $20 a week. You would never even know after the first week that your paycheck decreased by $20 or whatever, because it's such a small amount. But I had that little pot at the end for Christmas and spending, and it was a really great bonus. I know they have vacation clubs, stuff like that at the credit unions, and that could be something that can be taken. But there was something that, and I'm sure you can kind of, because it was kind of cool. Like the first week you put in $1, the next week you put in $2, the next week you put in $4, the next week you put in, and by the end of the year, you had almost $2,000 in this account that had been created. Now, that might be a little bit more work because that was a dedicated thing, but is there a way that you could kind of put this little slush funds away so that you have, like, if you wanted to do, and this, like, maybe it's part of setting those goals where you're speaking of, like, you want to go on vacation, you set a goal and you need to have so much thousands of dollars, whatever it is, so that you can. And even if you have not a lot of salary, is it possible to still, create some sort of a savings like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it really, I always say it doesn't take a lot of money to end up with a lot of money at the end of the day. My father was a prime example of this. He was really very disciplined, and my mother did not work outside of the house, and there were 7 children in my family, okay? And a good chunk of my father's professional career was in the military, which we all know is not a high-paying job. So it's not what you're making, it's what you're doing with that. And that's where, a lot of people would like you to buy into the old, you need to make more, have enough, or what have you. But the truth of the matter is, the only thing stopping you is yourself, okay? So if you know you have a goal, let's just say it's a short-term fun goal, like you said, like it's vacation, okay? You price out what that vacation is going to be, and you look at what every month needs to be put away toward that amount, right? We're really much better, I think, at saving when it's a tangible goal, like a car, or vacation, or whatever. But, you've got to make sure that you've got the bases covered for things that you can't borrow for. And retirement is that thing. And I've heard many, many people in a position where they're not in a financially strong position. They've not done, much in the way of setting money aside for their retirement. And what are they worried about? They're worried about their kid's college fund, or they're worried about affording their daughter's wedding, or helping their son buy their first home. And, first things first, you cannot borrow for that retirement. And if you're not putting away for it, it's not going to get done. And you're either going to have to work forever, or you're going to become a burden, literally a burden to your children, because they're going to see that you can't live, a good life, and they're going to, say, hey, move in with me, even though that might not be really what they want to see happen. So, it's that very cliche adage about, if you're on a plane and the oxygen mask drops down, you've got to put it on yourself first before you give it to your child. Money is like that. You have to. You absolutely must take care of setting money aside for retirement. And like I said, if you have a retirement plan at work, putting money in, to that serves 2 purposes. 1, it comes right out of your paycheck, so you don't have to think about it. 2, it lowers your taxable income. Because it's taking, say you make $50,000 and you're putting in $5,000, you're getting taxed as if you only earned $45,000. See? So it's saving you on taxes. If the company is offering a match, that's, gravy that you'd be foolish to pass up. So that's an easy way to put some money aside. And I'm not saying that you have to put in 15% at the get-go. For some people, that may be a stretch. But if you look very carefully at how you spend your money and you really look at what you're spending it on and what return you're getting for that, you might rethink, what you're spending at the grocery store, or, how many times a month you're going out to dinner, what you're spending on these luxuries, these wants, not needs. So, you have to carefully examine that and examine expenses that are fixed, that if you get a better rate on your cell phone, bill, for example, or a better rate on your oil delivery or whatever it is, that's a recurring expense. So, it may not sound like a lot to shave, $20 off something, but when you times that by 12, that's $240, right? So that's $240 go into your IRA. So I'm just saying you could look at taking money from other areas that's not really serving you very well and put it to use for you, but it involves a change in mindset. And what happens when you start to look at your expenses and look at how you're spending your money, a funny thing kind of happens. You tend to get a little bit more picky about what you're spending your money on. And you say, oh, I really, I like the Starbucks, but I don't know if I enjoy it that much that I should be spending, $30 a month on it. That $30 a month would be better off somewhere else. Maybe you love Starbucks, and maybe that would be a huge sacrifice. So keep the Starbucks. Find something else that is meaningless to you, that really isn't a sacrifice or a hardship, and eliminate that.
Well, most interesting, some things that I was thinking about while you were talking, with the expenses, like you're saying, I need to help my son with college, and I actually did that too, but I need to help the kids with college. I need to pay for the wedding. I need to do that. Like, at that time, it sounds like a good idea. So I'm going to just give a personal example. I know one of our family members is now in their 70s, and they also did help their daughter pay for the wedding. Their daughter and son-in-law are now married 25 years, and they're still paying for their wedding. And,
right.
They want to have a good quality of life. They're in their late years now, and they're still paying for the wedding. So, again, looking at that, what you said, that really sparked a thought. It does sound like a good idea at that time, but look at that long term, what's going to happen. And then those small changes where you're saying that's the Starbucks or lunch, out. My son recently went to the deli, and he sent for a sandwich for my son and my husband, and he brought it to our office. It was like $36 for lunch. And if you do that it really was. He came in, he's like, wow, this was like $36. He bought, a potato salad and a sandwich and iced tea. And he came in, and he's like, wow, this costs like $36. And each sandwich really winds up to be like $7 a sandwich.
Yep.
So when you do that and you're like, holy cow, if you're spending even $10 a day and you're at work, that's $50 a week. One of the things we do try to do is sometimes we'll make, and I did this last night, I actually made a meatloaf along with pork chops for dinner, and we have meatloaf for lunch today.
Yep.
So the meatloaf costs
your lunch is a huge cost. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. Exactly. So, looking at these little expenses and where, we don't realize we're spending money when we go to the food store or when we, there's things that maybe we could make that. And that's the whole goal of this whole Empower Half Hour. What is that small, teeny, tiny change that really won't negatively affect our quality of life?
Right.
Buy a reusable cup. Go to Dunkin' Donuts. Oh, my gosh, they sell the same coffee.
Right.
They sell the same coffee that they brew for you, and they charge you $3 a cup, and the whole pound is like $8.
Right.
So that's a potentially acceptable change. I think personally, take advantage of these little things, which might not adversely divide in the pound.
Exactly.
which is definitely cheaper when you divide it out. So, goodness gracious, Dina, you got my brain thinking here.
I'd like to propose to people to, think of a budget in the reverse order, right? Everyone says, oh, if I have to do a budget, it's what I have to cut out, and it's all about deprivation. It's kind of like a diet. It's not something that anybody really wants to do willingly. So
right,
I would argue you could look at what you've got coming in every month, okay? Work toward putting aside that 15% to yourself through retirement, into the bank, whatever it may be, okay? Put that to the side, and then what you're left with is what you get to spend. And it doesn't matter if you then spend it all, between your mortgage or rent and et cetera, because you've taken care of yourself first. Now, the 15 might be too high at first. You may have to start smaller and work your way up. But my point is, if you look at the budget from the reverse side, like, okay, if I take care of everything I need to take care of first and what I'm left with is what I get to spend, it may be less unpleasant. And you might be more apt to stick with it.
True. And again, those special treats and stuff, it's not saying, never go out to dinner, but if you plan it, it makes it more palatable, I guess, to your point.
Yeah.
Like if you're going out to dinner and you're charging it on your Visa and that is compounding and making the interest, that's not necessarily a good thing because it's going to cause stress in the long run, too. I think that that's something important.
Exactly.
Our kids are big now. My oldest is 24, and I have a 24, a 22, and a 20. So the both older boys have their own credit cards, and we've talked to them about a credit rating is extremely important so that eventually they can buy a house or if they wanted to buy a car or whatever. But to try to make sure that you repay that and not carry that with you because that's money that is not helping you. It's the interest is a waste of your efforts in a way. Certainly quality of life is important. So all of that has to be considered in the big scheme of things.
Right.
So what else we got? We're almost at the end of our half hour.
One thing I really want to do for people trying to get on their feet is to make sure that they have an emergency fund in place. 3 to 6 months worth of salary, because your first defense against another credit card, debt or spree is to make sure that you have money set to the side in the event that, your job, there's cutbacks, you get laid off, or you get injured, you can't work, or what have you. Having that emergency fund for when the oil burner blows or your car gets into an accident, that, you don't have to now borrow in order to get out of this predicament. And that right there gives you a position of strength. And that money should be in the bank. That has to be liquid. That cannot be invested.
That's very, very smart, and I appreciate that. That's some things that we're going to be discussing on May 21st. We're going to be having a Winning at the Game of Life, It's Time to Get Back to Basics seminar at the Ramada in Holtsville, New York. There'll be a lot more information coming within the next few days on that, and Dina will be there, and we'll be doing a Have Money segment. We'll be doing the whole Time to Play philosophy, happy, healthy, have money, work-life balance, general well-being, winning at the game of life, having the best ever. So these ideas, we'll have some handouts and some spreadsheets and things that we'll be able to provide to people. So, again, small change, simple change, nothing that's going to negatively affect our quality of life. It's better to have things planned in these very easy ways to implement that Dina's talking about this morning than, the stress that comes from not having these things planned. That's why Have Money is part of the Time to Play philosophy, because if you don't have enough money to feed your kids or yourself, it's kind of a little bit overwhelming and causes a decrease of quality of life. It's proven how financial stress negatively affects quality of life and health So that's why Dina is such an important person in our team. And I really appreciate it.
Mind, when you have peace of mind that you've covered everything you need to cover, it just makes life less stressful,
Absolutely.
And look at putting money to the side to strengthen yourself going forward as a positive instead of sacrifice. It's how you look at it. And you say, wow, I'm going to be in a better place this time next year, and these sacrifices are worth it. And look at it that way as a proactive thing, not deprivation.
Absolutely. And one of the things that my goal is, as part of the Time to Play Foundation and terms of the Time to Play philosophy and terms of this whole project, is to help people have a better life sooner than later. Later might not come. This is the most important time. And, having peace of mind, having that quality of life is extremely, extremely important.
Right.
Any closing thoughts additionally, or did we pretty much cover everything? Because we're going to do this next month too. Third Wednesday is Have Money Week. So.
Great. No, that's perfect. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, Dina, Dina, @realsmartica.com. And the blog I referenced is on Tony, Isola.com, and that's the Powerball, where I say, don't be desperate. You can take control of plenty of things and put yourself in a position of strength. Just make sure you do it. You just got to do it.
And maybe we can either reference or copy that on your.
I can certainly I'll put the link up.
Sounds perfect. And so I wanted to just remind anybody that's listening to please go to timetoplay.com. The Time to Play Foundation is a not-for-profit 501c3 corporation with a mission and purpose to enrich the lives of others through programs, public awareness, outreach activities, events, and learning opportunities that further the concept of enjoying life. And our goal is to inspire everyone to enjoy life because we all deserve to enjoy life. And the Empower Half Hour is made possible by our sponsors. If you go to the homepage of timetoplay.com, please click on special offers from our donors. It's on the right side, top column. Can't miss it, big red button. And please take advantage and tell them they are part of the Time to Play family, and you are. Tell them that, that's why you're patronizing their organization, and we really appreciate the support. Everyone has something to offer that can help someone else. If you have any questions, thoughts, or something you can add to what we can provide to people, please reach out to us. Contact button is there. Our phone number at the main office is 631-331-2675, or email info@timetoplay.com. We'll always answer. Really appreciate everybody's participation. Together we are strong, and I hope you guys have a great day and a great week. And tomorrow, don't forget, is the Say What You Want to Say at 8:30. Please refer that out to Thursdays, 8:30 every week. Please refer that out to people who you think need a little confidence and help and self-love. That's what we're here for. And thank you again, Dina, for your time today and your brilliant information. I appreciate it.
Good to be here.
You know what? You're part of our people, and it's most appreciated. So thank you so much. And we'll do Have Money Week next month. If anybody has thoughts or things they need to learn, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right. So with that, this is Doreen Guma signing off. I'm Dina Isola signing off. Have a great week.
Take care.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Yesterday, Cliff Sora shared a top 10 list of hot fusion restaurants, a vegan gluten-free mashup recipe, and a podcast featuring organic food trends. Oh, TMI? Too much internet information. That's oversharing. Cliff, Geico has something worth sharing with your friends. Like how on Geico.com you could save hundreds on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim. Gluten-free info that's easy to swallow. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.